Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice. Today is Memorial Day 304, and Michael will speak more about that here in a moment. We welcome you to the show. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That lets us know that you want to talk. Otherwise, we just think you're hanging out there listening. We welcome you to the show. Hello, Michael.
Hi, sweetie. Nice to be with you, everybody, and we are especially blessed. We're sitting in this backyard in Siesta Key, Florida. It kind of looks like we're in a Caribbean island. I'm actually in a saltwater pool. Jean can't get the computer in the pool, so she isn't in the pool with me. But anyway, we're doing the show, the wonders of technology. We're doing the show from a swimming pool in Siesta Key, Florida. How awesome is that? And we send warmth and heat and sunshine. It's probably about 85 degrees here right now. It's absolutely beautiful. A few puffy white clouds in the sky, but it brings appreciation for what we have in our world and the beauty that surrounds us, whether we're in the ice and snow or whether we're in the tropics. It's a pretty cool place to be. And it's too bad we humans had to come along and muck it up. And what we're here to do with this work is to get rid of the muck. How are you going to do that? Well, as Jeannie said, our honoring of Memorial Day is 304. So we're 304 days out from Memorial Day, where we started a new tradition on the show. And the tradition is our invitation every day, and a reminder every day. Do you still do hostility and fear? Do you still play like if somebody doesn't satisfy your infantile demands, rage is the way to get what you want? Well, actually, I have a new piece of information for you. Rage is the way to destroy yourself and cause more pain, which, of course, tends to end up in the cycle of more rage, more pain, until people just destroy themselves. It's a runaway downward cycle. If you're still capable of rage, if you're still capable of hostility, if you're still capable of fear, what I'm going to invite you to do is to be willing to take responsibility. And I don't say if you're still like I'm not, because I'm still doing my work too, just like everybody else. But if you're capable of that, if your physiology has the ability to produce anything like that, then you are the cause of war. You know, lots of people stand around and talk about how somebody else should do their work, somebody else should clean it up, somebody else should live in peace. But don't expect me to do that whenever somebody doesn't satisfy my infantile demands. I have the right to just point my full-blown rage at them and, do whatever insanity my rage counsels me to do. Well, our invitation is, if you still have that going on, then we invite you to become one who puts an end to war. I would offer that this hostility and fear-based mind is a reason for war. And, believe it or not, it can be eradicated. It can be disappeared. And it disappears when there is the presence of a human being. People oftentimes look at some of the insanities in war and they say, how could a human being do such a thing? Well, my offering is that a human being could not do such a thing. It's absolutely impossible for a human being to make war, to do insanity. But we can sure be brainwashed out of our humanness in a hurry. And if we are, then we'll find somebody to take it out on. Our invitation is that you pick up the tool of forgiveness. Now, don't believe what I've got to say. This process, this work requires no belief whatsoever. All it requires is that you take the tool and put it to work. And if you do, here's what you'll find. You're going to start uncovering parts of yourself that you didn't even know were there and that are running you and defining you. And as you remove, that is, forgive those parts of yourself, you'll return to a human life. That will be the end of war in your world. That will be the end of war in your mind. That will be the end of war in your body. That will be the end of disease in your body. They see all kinds of miracles happen, but they still deny they're possible. Excuse me, there is a reliable way to produce miracles in your world, and that is if you begin to forgive your very capacity for any form of hostility or fear, you'll produce miracles in your world. We had a young one who, well, actually, she might call in, so I won't say anything about it right now. We'll hope that Marie will give us a call. So in any event, If you're not familiar with the whole forgiveness process, if this is something new to you, then we invite you to go to our website. And accolades to Jeannie as the webmaster. It's awesome what she's done with that. The website is www.whyagain.com. You have to put the www in front of it. Go to our website, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. We invite you to catch that link, click on it, and then the first 7 items under that link will give you the whole forgiveness story. We'll show you exactly how to uncover and remove every part of your mind that holds any form of hostility or fear that takes your human life away. Without the active presence of love, every instant that you are in a state where there is not love present in you, your human life has been disappeared. That was called the first death. If you overcome that, if you clean that one up, you won't have to taste of the second death. You won't kill yourself with the hostilities and fears of the world. So that's what we're here to celebrate and to honor in terms of those who've been forced into the insanity and to bring about a change in our world. If we didn't have anyone to be angry at, who would anybody ever pick up a gun toward, except the people who make guns and make money from it? And once we start to wake up and say, excuse me, enough is enough, let's stop, then it'll stop. And those guys who are building their guns and their bombs will start to build something else. You know, there are all kinds of creative genius, all kinds of creative, wondrous, awesome ways in which to express in the world and to bring human life into full experience. So let's get about it. Let's get about it. So Jeannie, is Dr. Tim with us? Is David with us today?
They are both with us, and we do already have a caller.
Awesome. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Anything that either of you have to share before we get into our caller's question or thought?
Just a lovely day here in Illinois, and a very small but powerful group last night, and we can talk more about that if there's time after you get to your caller, but we're here and listening and glad to be part of the team.
Awesome. What's the temperature there in Chicago right now?
Close to 60.
Oh, nice, nice. How about Heartland, David? How's it there?
Oh, Heartland is doing very well. It's a little bit warmer than 60 degrees here, according to the, it's about 75 degrees here. So
nice.
For March, that is
very cool.
Very nice. Good.
Well, anything to report, David, before we head to the caller?
No, I think the caller's ready. I'm ready to listen to the caller.
Awesome. Let's go for it. Jeannie?
Area code 813. You're on the air.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon. Hi, Michael. My name is Susan. I actually called yesterday at the end of the show. I said I should call back today.
Glad you're back.
Yeah. I think I was in the workshop, a few of the workshops last week when you were here in Tampa, Florida.
Right.
And, yeah, so anyway, I was telling you yesterday that I'm having a situation I'm struggling with. I've got my worksheets in front of me, reality management. But anyway, I'm still struggling with the feeling of, I know it's wrong, but I'm still struggling with it, to be honest with you. If that somebody's doing something.
It's not wrong. It's perfect.
Okay, somebody's doing something that's that's hurting me, that's making me feel really upset and anxious, and if that person would just do something differently or stop doing it. So, yeah, so you know what I mean? But I'm having a hard time getting past that feeling, even though I remember from the workshop, as soon as you say someone did this to me, or you are doing something to me that, I kind of, on some level I get that that's not right, but it really does feel that way. So I'm just struggling with getting to the original time that this feeling happened or came up. Feelings, basically the feeling is of abandonment, and it's feeling abandoned and almost like panicked about it.
Okay, so then let's just see if we can cut this into bite-sized chunks. First of all, abandonment is a thought. It's really not a feeling.
Okay.
If somebody walks out the front door to go to the store and I think they've gone to the store, that's one thing. If somebody walks out the front door and I think they've left for eternity, that's another. One is a thought of abandonment, one is a thought. So the feeling, it sounds like, that you're identifying as panic.
Right.
So I'd start my worksheet out with those two.
Okay.
I would put feelings feelings of panic in number 1B, and then my thought that causes my feeling of panic is abandonment.
Okay.
That I've been abandoned.
Okay.
So you've got number 1B and C.
Right.
And so now you want to go up to number 1A and put the name of the person that you're doing this projection with right now.
Right. Okay, done.
And then number 1. Pardon me. You've done number 1C and D. We haven't done B yet. The situation. Pardon me. Put the feeling in C and the thought in D. And then number 1B. What's the situation? What happened?
What happened?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the what is my percent? Okay. So what happened is we were having a telephone conversation. I think this is what happened. I think I got upset about something she was telling me. I think I got upset about something she was telling me. I think she said something.
Well,
like,
let's just take a quick look at that thought. You know, when you recognize, and if you remember from the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, we pointed out the Harvard research. It says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire,
right,
the max amount of information that goes into my conscious awareness is 9 bits. So I tell my mind with my words how to organize the 9 bits I get to see. And when I say something she was telling me upset me,
right,
then I'm telling my 9-bit mind, here's the way you have to show me the world, that she's responsible for my upset.
Okay.
So if you could just shift that language a little bit, you might start to see it differently. And that was, you know, whatever that person's name is, was saying thus and so, and that brought agitation, irritation, anger, whatever it is, up for me.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And that'll be the beginning of a shift in perception, a way of seeing it differently.
So when she was saying whatever it was she was saying, I started to feel agitated, upset, maybe jealous, something.
Okay.
Okay. And that would be the start of...
So we've now got actually 2 different worksheets. So do you have a second worksheet there? This is called the hydra effect. Do you have a second worksheet handy?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's take this this one of jealousy, and let's put that in the feeling blank in number 1C.
Number 1C, okay. Okay.
Jealousy, and then the situation, work backward from C. Jeannie calls this backing into a worksheet. So you've got number 1C, jealousy. Number 1B, when she tells me thus and so, it brings up my jealousy. So what is it that she's telling you? And you don't have to share that out loud. You just want to put that in the worksheet.
Okay.
And once again, you'd have her name as the object of attention.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So there's the beginning of another worksheet related to this one. You know, and they asked the master teacher of this process, how many of these darn worksheets do we have to do? Is 7 enough? The answer in Aramaic was no, 77 times 70.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to watch for the hydra effect here. So there's the second, and the hydra was a Greek mythological creature that when you cut off its head, several more heads appeared.
Okay.
So this worksheet's gone from thoughts of abandonment to feelings of jealousy and thoughts that whatever the thought is there, but that'll be for the other time. So let's go back to the primary worksheet.
Okay.
And so you have this person's name.
Right.
She says what? And I feel...
I put down, my mind tells me feel panic. The thought I use to cause my feelings is abandonment. The piece I don't have is my perception. B is thought I have been abandoned. That's it. For what is your perception? The thought that I've been abandoned?
Your perception would be more the mechanical situation of what happened. I'm on the phone with her, and she says,
okay,
whatever it is. When she says that, it triggers my panic, and in my panic comes the thought. My panic comes from the thought she's triggered me is that I'm going to be abandoned.
Okay.
Okay. And then, what's your punishment thought? What is it you want to do? You're on the phone right now with her, and she says whatever it was that she said. What is it? I mean, do you want to reach through the phone and choke her? Do you want to turn tail and run? Do you want to? What is it you want to do to her?
I think she said, I'll call you back later. I said, no, don't call me back to talk about this tonight. And she hasn't talked to me since then. So I guess that would be called turn tail and run.
So before you can abandon me, I'm going to abandon you?
Right, exactly. Okay. So by saying don't call me back tonight about this or don't call me back tonight, that was me abandoning her.
Yeah, I would say that's like I'm leaving. I'm out of this conversation.
Right. Okay. So I want to punish them by leaving.
Yeah, sounds like it. Now, an alternative that could be, there's so much up in my face right now, it'd be a whole different game. It's all based on the thoughts. The behavior could be the same, but the thought could be something totally different. And it might look like, this brings up a lot of fear of abandonment for me. And what I'd like to do before we talk any further is do some work around this idea of abandonment and clean that up. So
Okay.
what do you say we talk tomorrow or the next day? Could be a whole different game.
Okay.
Yeah, could be a whole different game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No, you want to put the punishment thought in is leaving, but I'm just offering that as an alternative, that you could still leave the conversation,
Okay.
but in one case it's punishment, in the other case it's taking care of yourself. The behavior isn't the reflection of that, it's the thought that goes with it. So in the punishment thought, it's like, I'm out of here, I don't even want to talk to you.
Right.
It's punishment. And,
Okay.
I really need to take care of myself right now. I'm in pain, and I've got some work to do, and so I'm going to take a day or two, time out to do that. That would be taking care of yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was coming from punishing. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm out of here.
Right.
But anyway, she is. She's punishing me back because she is out of here now. She's out of here. I've contacted her, emailed her, called her, bum. She won't answer, won't respond. So, just basically.
So she's responding tit for tat.
Well, I shouldn't say she hasn't I called and she did. Actually, she'd sent me a one-line email. She said, I don't want to talk now. That's okay.
Uh-huh.
And I sent her another email. She said, well, how about a walk this afternoon? I don't think so. And then, so I've tried to make contact several times. Those are the 2 times she responded. I want to be careful to, not say that she has completely ignored me, but basically we're out of touch. We are the kind of friends that talk several times a day.
So this sounds like the ideal relationship to create the space for healing, because what you've got happening from the sound of it is perfect matching bags of garbage.
Okay.
From what you're saying, it sounds like she has abandonment issues, and clearly you have abandonment issues.
Right.
And so you say, if you've ever seen the movie The War of the Roses.
I haven't. I heard you talk about it.
Oh, well, it's pretty insane. But she says something, he starts to go berserk, she goes more berserk, he goes more berserk, and they're literally on the path to killing each other. So it sounds like matching bags of garbage, and you know precisely how to trigger each other's abandonment issues.
Right, exactly, and we have. Okay.
So the other alternative might be some responsibility communication. This would bring in a different tool that we teach. And the responsibility communication process here might be, it sounds to me like I'm bringing up abandonment issues for you, and I know that they're up for me. So maybe what we could do is connect and do some healing work around this whole thing.
Okay.
And do that in a supportive way. That transforms codependent relationship into interdependent relationship.
Okay.
Now, however she responds, if she responds, yeah, that makes sense, okay, let's go for it. Or if she responds, go to hell. Doesn't really matter. You've stepped into the place of interdependence instead of codependence. You're going to heal if you do that.
Okay. Okay. And how do we do healing work around that? How would we do that?
Well, it might look like doing worksheets together. It might look like taking the commitment from the Healing Through Relationships workshop and speaking it with each other. It might look like taking the worksheet from the codependence to interdependence workshop that we did the other night and doing that together.
Okay.
It might look like doing still point breathing with each other. It might look like sitting down and doing worksheets together. You know, any and all of the tools would be appropriate.
Okay. So even if I put that out there and there's no response, then at least that was still
you're learning and stepping into interdependence rather than just functioning out of codependence. You made me, and I'm out of here. Okay, I'm back. Oh, you're out now? Oh, well, yeah, well, and just triggering each other into that endless cycle.
Right, okay.
So now you're doing your work around this. So the next step, you've laid out a scenario. Now, I think you said this was somebody that you'd met about 8 months ago?
Good memory. 6.
6 months ago when we talked yesterday.
Yes.
So if you look at this scenario, if you look at this story that you've written in number 1,
right.
Do you recognize that story?
Yes.
The names have changed to protect the guilty, but
right.
You recognize the story quite well, right?
Right.
So here's the place where if you look over in the little box in the right-hand corner, you were able to easily tap into what your feelings were. But sometimes, you know, those feelings go back a long way, and they're pre-verbal. They're before we even had words to put to them. So there's a space there to do a drawing of what your feelings are. And then at the bottom of it, and this is designed to be done once you finish number 1. So here's your story. You've identified it clearly. You've been through this one too many times. Now, your energy field has at its root this story. And it's time for you to be rid of your story.
Right.
Here's another tool. Verbal release is a powerful way to remove your story.
Okay.
And so that little box shows, so I'm going to release whoever it is I've got in number 1A. I surrender and release to love, Mary Jane. I surrender and release to love the story that I've been done in one more time and I'm going to be abandoned. I surrender and release my feelings of panic. I'm ready to just function out of a human life, the active presence of love, rather than out of panic. I surrender and release the thought that I deserve to be abandoned.
Okay. Where are you reading that from?
And I release. Pardon me?
Where is that on the worksheet here?
Yeah, in the little box on the right-hand side in step 1.
Little box one. I read. Okay,
the box
got it.
Says draw your feelings.
Yeah, I got it.
The bottom part of that box has the verbal release process.
Got it. Okay.
So this is where you're taking charge of your field and you're saying, okay, this story is an energy that resides in my field. It's dirt in the house. If I had dirt in the house, I'd get a broom and I'd sweep it out. Well, I don't have a broom, but I have a voice, and this is my field, and I can take charge of what's in here. So I'm going to tell it to leave. And, if that's a new idea to you, that can seem pretty, radical a thought to just tell things to leave. But, in fact, as you practice, you can do exactly that. You can tell these energies that produce this whole perceptual reality again and again and again, that it's time for you to be finished with it. It's time for this energy to depart from you. In the ancient teachings, it was casting out demons and spirits.
Okay.
So how about just going through that verbal release process with the situation you're working on?
Okay, so just say it. I release and surrender.
Yep. And the first time you do it, the first 10 times, 20 times you do it, it's going to seem like, what kind of fantasy is this? But there'll come a point where you'll start to recognize your dominion over these energies and your ability to remove them. And they'll start to go at your command.
So I release and surrender. You add the person's name.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I release and surrender. My feelings.
The story that.
The story that.
Whatever number 1B is.
the story that
Breathe. This isn't the first time somebody's talked to you like that, right?
Correct.
Yep. So here's where you're removing all the dynamics, all the energetic dynamics of this story from your field by literally taking charge of your field and saying, enough's enough. It's time for this to disappear.
So I release and surrender 1A, my feelings or my thoughts that are triggering my panic?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's it. You got it.
Okay.
And then I release the punishment thought.
Release the punishment thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I release the punishment thought that I'm leaving.
Okay. So, and breathe. Yeah, and that's it. And that's a tool that, like any other tool, the first time you pick up a baseball bat and the pitcher for the New York Yankees throws a pitch to you, you're not going to hit a home run.
Right.
I promise you. But with practice, you'll get to the point where you can.
Okay. All righty. All right. Well, I'll practice.
So that's, okay. So that's another skill we invite people to use, another tool we built into the worksheet.
Okay.
All right, then, in terms of healing, when we make up stories that aren't true, the stories that aren't true become energetic dynamics that we tend to get locked into. And when we expose those energetic dynamics to the presence of love, literally they begin to dissolve on a whole other level. So what you want is, and I bet you $1 million, if you were to have a really clean, loving conversation with this person, and you said to her, and why did you abandon me? I bet she'd say, what are you talking about? I didn't abandon you. It may be a reality in your head, but that's not what I did.
Okay.
But that's how your mind perceives it. That's the energetic dynamic you see through.
Right. Okay.
And so your mind's story, which isn't true, that's sometimes called a lie, when you call that lie truth, your mind will use that to block truth. So once that Harvard research that says in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the max amount of information in conscious awareness is 9 bits. So my 9-bit mind will be filled with the dynamics of how you did this to me, and it's true. So I want to call that into question. Gee, maybe what you were talking about had nothing to do with abandoning me.
Right.
So I'm willing to antidote myself out of this blockage of truth game that I play by telling myself a story and insisting it must be true. And the way that I do that, the antidote is love of truth. So the next step in number 2 is I choose to love truth.
Okay.
And I'm willing to embrace, if you look back and you think about the life that your parents lived and their parents lived and what you know about your great-grandparents, if you know anything, if you look at the life that they lived, was there any abandonment in it?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I could just about guarantee there probably was.
Yeah,
I remember working with a gal down in South Florida, and she often listens to the show, so she might call in, but she went recently to spend some time with her daughter in another country. And when she came back, part of the work that she did was getting in touch with the fact that she had left her daughter in this other country for what her mind gave her as good reasons. But when she uncovered it, she found out that her father and her grandfather had done exactly the same thing, had left their children in another country to go to still a different country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was, suffering horribly from, oh my God, what have I done? But at the time, her reality structure, her mind's output, guided her that that was the best thing she could do. And based upon her genetics, that was the story that her mind gave her, and that was the best thing she could do. Huge regret, but unconscious in that guidance from the previous generations, we play it out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if there are any of these dynamics in your previous generations, then this next part of step number 2 is the willingness to get bigger on a spiritual level. If you could imagine your original being, when we ask the question in the workshop, hold a newborn child, and what do you describe it as? Everybody's description is that of love. So imagine your newborn beingness, and as you tap into that, can you imagine expanding it big enough to be able to embrace all of the pain that you've had around abandonment and all of the pain from all of the generations in your family system that have experienced abandonment? Whether the abandonment's been forced, your family, mine, they've been through wars, fathers have been lost, sons have been lost, and surely, the people who were left behind had in many cases, these issues of abandonment. Mm-hmm. And so if you could imagine yourself becoming spiritually big enough to embrace, and the Native Americans had a term, whenever they went into ceremony, whenever they went into a sweat lodge, into any kind of healing, they had a term that was matakwiasan. And that's where the wording in that section on number 2 came from, was matakwiasan means for all my relations. So I'm willing to embrace and to be the space of healing for this dynamic from all of my generations, for all my relations. Mm-hmm. So a statement of willingness there. And then I'm willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. So if those 2 steps make sense to you, number 2, how about doing that?
Okay.
Good breath. Good breath. That's the kind of breath it takes to heal. So what are the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing? Just briefly, on a physical level, it can be any kind of physical symptom you've ever had in low energy. If you think back to times when abandonment occurred, like, for instance, a small child who feels abandoned, the energy is going to go to their stomach. They may double up literally in stomach pain. If that was something that happened to you at 5 years of age, justified or not, and that's what went, where the energy went was to the stomach, then you may find yourself experiencing some stomach cramps and some stomach pain. That will approximate exactly what was felt by the child if that actually happened to you. There may be, any number of symptoms, headaches, stomach aches, muscle aches, anything that has gone on previously. And here I'm willing again to get big enough to embrace this, to hold this in the space of my healing.
So my heart palpitations, they might be part of this healing?
Absolutely. That's it exactly, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
So on a physical level, on a mental level, it can look like any kind of negative thought you've ever had, and confusion. Mm-hmm. And so there may be some mass confusion come up as you do this.
Okay.
And on an emotional level, it can be any kind of negative feeling you've ever had, in depression.
Okay.
So you may find yourself sinking into some heavy-duty spaces.
Okay.
If you do, stay conscious. This is part of the healing process. If that's what went into the system, on the way back out, the healing's going to look just the way it did on the way in.
Okay.
Healing isn't Dr. Feelgood. That's one of the reasons it's not very popular, and most people won't engage it. So it's a courageous step to take. So I'm willing to go through those symptoms.
Okay.
Then, if you look at this whole situation, you're on the phone with this person, and they say whatever it is they said that you detailed in number 1 that trigger these feelings of abandonment and such, or thoughts of abandonment and feelings of panic. If you, in that instant, when you first heard those words, if you were with clarity, be able to speak to her the constructive result you wanted from her at that moment, what goal would you have had for her? What would you have said if it had been a really pure, clean, clear, this is what I really want from you right now? What would it be?
Wow. What would I really want? Oh, is it what I want or what I didn't want? I don't want you to talk about this person with me.
The non-being mind will automatically go to what it didn't want. We're going to invite everybody who's doing worksheets to change that dynamic. So rather than going to what you don't want, because when you become an expert at what you don't want, you become an expert at creating it over and over and over again.
Right, okay.
So what is it you really wanted?
I really wanted to have a conversation. Oh gosh, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to put it into a positive. I really wanted to have.
That's because you're so clear on what you don't want, and that's one of the reasons you keep creating what you don't want.
Right, okay.
So would you like some support in looking at it?
Yeah. I don't know how to put it into the word. What I'm inclined to say is I don't want you to talk about such and such, but not sure how to put it into. Yeah.
So that's what you don't want, and you know, because we create by our words. When you're really clear about what you don't want, you're going to create it over and over and over and over and over and over again until you change your words. Until you learn how to change the content of your brain cells and change the words, you're going to keep creating exactly what you don't want. So it sounds to me like at that moment. What's that?
Yeah, which I have with this person. She keeps talking about what I don't want her to talk about.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So it sounds like perhaps if you'd have been able to be clear about what you did want, it might have looked like, what I'd really like for you are some reassuring words about our connectedness and our friendship.
Got it.
Does that sound like it would fit the bill?
Yeah, that sounds good, right?
Yeah. So, but until you can think of that, you can't ask for it. And until you can ask for it, you can't have it. Unless the person you're in communication with is really conscious and is able to bring it forward, which sadly in our culture today isn't very common.
Okay.
So that's your goal. Now, that goal, even though it's unconscious, that's one of the basic needs being met and one of the basic goals that you hold. That goal becomes the driver that maintains this reality called abandonment. Every time you load it in your mind, it's going to access this part of your mind that holds the hostility and the fear that you're experiencing. And what you want to do is to clean out, forgive all of the hostility and fear around this issue so that you could be on the phone with her having precisely the same conversation, and there'd be nothing like hostility or fear come up in you, nothing like unconsciousness. There'd just be simple clarity about, I really want to make sure that we maintain our friendship and stay connected. Rather than, oh my God, you've abandoned me and now I'm leaving, I'm getting off the phone and don't call me and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay. Because that's and there's it's the perfect setup for relationship based in matching bags of garbage. Because when I'm really clear that I don't want to be abandoned, I don't want you to abuse me, and you better not talk to me like that, I resonate everything in them that holds the matching bag of garbage.
Right.
And here we are now off to the races, playing out, in a minor way, the War of the Roses.
Right. Okay.
Then number 4, the prime healer in the whole dynamic of relationship is the active presence of love in you, while what's hidden underneath that creates this abandonment comes to the surface. So in step 4, you want to make sure, and as you practice and work with worksheets, this is a practice that we suggest that people enter into. So the practice is one of making sure that you hold and are able to call upon this presence of love anytime anything happens. So number 4 is where I'm tapping into the active presence of love and strengthening that in me. So I'm I ask to be restored to my newborn state, to my true nature, which is this. You know, have you ever held a newborn child?
Yes.
So if you tap into the nature of the newborn, that's your true nature. So in this step in number 4, with all this going on, could you imagine bringing that aspect of your nature forward into awareness right here, right now?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a practice then. You're not going to say it just once and then it's done.
Right.
So this is a discipline for you to enter into. And what we suggest, you know, when we invite people to do 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, this means that 5 times a day, one is stopping and calling on the active presence of love to be in them and operative.
Okay.
So how about just tapping in? And one of the best ways I know to do that is just to imagine holding a newborn, look into the face of the newborn and smile.
Okay.
And as you smile, allow the warmth of your smile to reach up to the frontal lobes of your brain. Imagine the energy from your smile. As your lips turn upward, the energy actually radiates up into the frontal lobes of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that activates a filter called Rakma, which is the gateway for our newborn essence to come into our physiology. It's actually the word that was used when Yeshua 2,000 years ago said the first law was Rakma. It was this filter being active. And so the practice of it gives you the power over time to be able to maintain that gateway no matter what happens in your world, no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody does. And as I say, it's a practice.
Okay.
So how about just imagine holding that state of that connected newbornness. Smile, and let the frontal lobes of your brain be warmed by that smile. And when you feel that, just let me know.
Now my heart palpitation stopped.
Okay, heart palpitation stopped. Aha! The practical application of the active presence of love in physiology.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you got that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Then step 5, and seeing as I'm in the pool, I don't have a worksheet in my hands. It'd be pretty wet. But I'm going to ask you to read. And basically what step 5 is about, you know, it'd be nasty. But step 5 is a description of what happens when you enter into actual Aramaic forgiveness. And in Aramaic, the word forgive is shebag. It means to cancel. And so the goal that you hold in this situation, number 3, what you just wrote down at number 3, is the driver, literally, even though you're unconscious of it, it's one of those basic needs, and it's the driver that when you load it in your mind links into your hostility or fear. The problem isn't the goal. You know, it's an awesome goal to have someone communicate in a loving way with you, and everybody deserves that all the time. However, if when I load that goal in my mind, it accesses some sort of hostility or fear in me, then that hostility or fear defiles my perception, and I'm in trouble. So I now have a problem.
Okay.
And so how about reading number 5A as you cancel your goal?
Read number 5A. My reality made of a mix of nine bits of info out of 10,000 brain cells firing is a limited picture from my CBM and a result of driven by my goal. It is constructed out of corrupt data. By canceling my goal,
Is that making sense to you? Are you making sense of those statements as you do that?
So, I mean, I remember from our workshop, you have to.
So I'm canceling the goal. I have a 9-bit mind.
Okay.
That's what makes up my reality. My goal is the driver for that reality. When I load a goal and it accesses a part of my mind that holds hostility or fear, it's me that's in trouble because my perception is defiled by my hostility or fear. When I cancel the goal, I collapse that which defiles my perception. And so the idea here, the reason you cancel the goal is not because you can't have it, not because you don't want it, not because you don't deserve it, not because there's anything wrong with the goal, but because when you load it in your mind, it accesses your hostility and fear.
So if my goal was communication,
suffer degradation of perception. Pardon me?
Sorry. So if my goal was to have that connectedness and responsible communication, I need to cancel that?
That's it.
Okay.
Which is the shock of shocks to the non-being mind. Wait a minute, I deserve that. Why would you tell me to cancel that? That's foolish. Well, you're right. You do deserve it. Creator, why haven't you created it yet? I'd offer the reason you haven't created it is because there's a bigger part of your mind that says you can't have it and you don't deserve it than the part that says you can and you do. And so you cancel the goal in order to access the part of your mind that says I can't and I don't deserve it. I can't create it, I don't deserve it. And so by canceling the goal, I collapse the projection of those brain cells that this is somebody else's problem, and I get to drill down into my own dissociated state, my own dissociated mind.
Okay.
So how about canceling that goal?
Okay.
And then in number 5B, there's an invitation. You know, when you recognize that you get to see 9 bits of information out of 10,000 brain cells firing, a 9-bit processor isn't very much when it comes to cleaning up 1,000 generations of insanity.
Okay.
And so what Yeshua taught 2,000 years ago was that there was a power in us that we could call a super processor. That is something that has access on things much deeper than what we do. In Aramaic, that power was called Ruka de Kudsha. It's been known by many different names in the AA groups and such. It's called the higher power. Mm-hmm. It's been called the superconscious, the subconscious, the primordial, whatever you choose to call it. We usually suggest that people try out Ruka de Kudsha and get used to those words because I think there's a vibratory impact to them. But how about just going ahead and inviting that power, whatever you would call it, to go to work? So I invite that power to restore me to love and just go through. And if you would, go ahead and read 5B as you invite that power to go to work.
I invite, I'll use higher power, my higher power, to incline me toward healing, to restore me to my newborn state, love, heal my denial and capacity to generate panic, filling in from 1C, help me open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove the disassociated and projected parts of my CBM.
Of your own carbon-based memory.
Carbon-based memory, right.
Yeah. So as you cancel that goal and invite that power to go work, what happens? What are you feeling? What's going on?
Feeling a little bit calmer, a little more settled.
Okay. If you look at the situation back in number 1 where she's saying what she's saying, does that appear any differently to you now?
Well, I think the words are still the same.
Okay.
Right?
But does it look any different to you? Do you feel it, see it any differently?
It's not generating the panic that it was previously.
Okay. So some of the panic is lessening. Now, when they ask the master teacher of forgiveness, how many of these worksheets do we have to do? Is 7 enough? His answer in Aramaic was no, 77 times 70, which literally means an infinite number till you're complete. And so if you look at how often in your life you've been in panic,
right,
you might do more than just a couple of worksheets around ridding yourself physiologically of the capacity for panic.
Right, okay.
Okay? And so as you look in number 6, fill that in, I now feel And after forgiveness, I can see that. So maybe the insight looks like I can see that it isn't really reason for as much panic as I had.
Right, okay.
And then
another worksheet of other times when I have felt panic.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Yeah, there'll definitely be perhaps a literal 77 times 70, or maybe another 4.
Right. Okay.
The 77 times 70 is not necessarily a literal thing. What it means, as it comes out of the Aramaic, is you're going to do an infinite amount of work around this until you're complete with it, until you're finished.
Understood.
With panic.
Okay. Understood.
Okay.
Understand. Yes.
And then the second part of number 6 is to look at when you have violated that goal toward yourself. So if you look at times when you haven't communicated with yourself gently and been open to your own loving, embracing your own loving nature, has that ever happened in your world?
Yes.
Okay. So you might want to just, in that second part in number 6, or actually the third part in number 6, is just detail a little bit of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember the time I looked in the mirror and I just, blew up all over myself or whatever.
Okay. Okay, all right.
And you might just, and this might be something to do, maybe when we finish the show, but just spend a little bit of time with this. And how many times have you done that to reinforce this whole panic thing? And here's where you get to the point where somebody could call you in the worst snit in the world and call you the worst names in the world and tell you how they're never ever, ever. And you could stand there in the connected space of love and go, gee, it looks like you're really in pain. Can I support you? Rather than go into this panic about being abandoned because you've cleaned up your capacity to produce abandonment.
Okay.
Okay? And then number 7, when we recognize that we live in a world of sowing and reaping, and as you sow, you reap, if you were to think about a new energy that relates to what your goal was in number 3, that you were going to set as a goal toward this person that you're doing this worksheet on.
Right.
So what would that goal be? So recognizing that in this universe, as I give, I receive, what would be a new goal that you're willing to offer her?
I will give you reassurance.
Yeah.
About our connectedness and our friendship.
Yeah. Sounds good. Right on track.
Okay.
And how does it feel to say that?
Oh, it feels great. I hope I get a chance to.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. And so that's the process of forgiveness. That's how you would do a worksheet around an issue such as this. And it doesn't mean that having done one worksheet, you're finished. There might be a few more to do, but does that give you a direction in a sense of, in a relationship situation like this, how to clean up that panic and abandoned part of the mind?
Yes, it does very much. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, any other questions or thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I think I'll just listen for the rest of the show.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having the courage to bring that forward. That's going to become another featured worksheet on our worksheet session, and we'll title that, around relationship, because of course there are a lot of people out there playing a lot of crazy games in relationships, and this will give them a way to start to see past the times when their own mind produces and generates panic and creates interruption in relationship where perhaps otherwise the interruption isn't even necessary.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
All right. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
So that's the game of getting to recognize my responsibility and my part in playing something out in my world and the behaviors that I do to maintain those things, and how to start to access and heal those parts of my mind that hold that what's going on in my mind must be true for, from, and about somebody else.
We have another caller.
So, you've got another caller. Awesome. Let's hear our caller.
All right, it's area code 727. You're on the air.
Hi, my name is Sandy, and I'm calling from Florida.
Hi, Sandy. Welcome.
I just want to say thank you. I was listening to you talk to her about her problem with relationship with that other human being. My question is can you take on so much responsibility and forgive everybody and take on that responsibility and have a lot of guilt and unforgiveness for yourself?
Well, what we're going to suggest is that you never forgive anybody for anything, that you stop that foolishness, because that's not forgiveness. Our culture has taught us, you notice what we just went through with that young lady was she looked at the fact that her mind has a capacity to produce a reality called panic and abandonment. And so she didn't forgive this other person for their phone call or what was said on the phone call. Notice that was a very small part of it. That's just identifying the situation around which her mind produces panic and abandonment. And so the forgiveness work is applied to my capacity. If I were her, now say we're talking me. So if I'm in panic and feeling or thinking that I've been abandoned and I'm in a panic over that, I have a problem. And so the forgiveness is applied to my problem, to my panic and my abandonment to change that. So notice that, nothing's changed with this person. She didn't get a phone call in the middle of our worksheet where this person said, "Oh, I apologize, let me come over and give you a hug." She was able to rid herself of heart palpitations, which is exactly where in her tissue structure she was holding this whole abandonment and panic thing. And so the forgiveness is how you go inside yourself and remove your very capacity to generate such a thing.
Okay.
So what it sounds like you're saying, what I hear from you is that I'd be blaming them for my guilt, and that in trying to be responsible for them, that then I'd be the guilty party. So my input would be, and if you'd like, we can do some more work around this. We're down to about less than 60 seconds now, so we'll have to close the show. But your work around that would be a worksheet on guilt for not being able to fix everybody else. And that would be another awesome worksheet to do. And so from just a little bit that you said, it sounds like that if you were to do what the culture's taught you, I forgive them, then you'd end up in guilt over the whole process. And our invitation would be a worksheet where you apply forgiveness to your guilt, so that from just a little bit that you said, it sounds like that if you were to do what the culture's taught you, I forgive them, then you'd end up in guilt over the whole process. And our invitation would be a worksheet where you apply forgiveness to your guilt, so that no matter what happens in your world or whatever anybody does, guilt just isn't your reality. And that's how you delete those things. That's forgiveness work.
These worksheets, are they on your website? Can you purchase them from your website? Okay.
You don't have to purchase them. They're free, and the instructions are all there. If you go to www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. You can go to the site, and you can download the worksheet, a free chapter 24 of my book. There are right now 5 different 1-hour radio shows where we walk people like we did today, and Jeannie will probably have this particular show on the site very shortly. You can just right-click on the MP3s and download those directly and listen to them, and it guides you through the whole process. We're also in Sarasota, Florida this weekend, and we're doing a 3-day mini-intensive non-residential in Sarasota if you want to take your work to another level and tap in. So anybody that's interested in that. Our show's complete. We're not going to be able to do the outro. We'll just say, create the best year yet of your eternal life, and we'll look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. Bring a stranger to the show with you tomorrow. Blessings. Bye-bye.